It's Friday, June 27th. I'm Jim Csek with NowMedia. The headlines today: Canada teetering on the edge of a recession. BC Ferry decision. Is it incompetence or malice? Are more taxes coming for Canadians? Trump making deals and Albertans losing patience. All that and a lot more on the Really Big Show. With me, Iain Burns, our managing editor out there in our nation's capital. Kind of a cloudyish day here in the Okanagan, but still a very nice day. How are things looking out there in the big city of Ottawa?
I think it's actually basically the same. Having looked at the Kelowna weather earlier, I think it's basically a match. So we're enjoying the same environmental experience today.
Well, the Canadian economy, that's the big news. And it's, as they say, it's all about the economy, stupid. And here you go. Negative. The GDP for the month of April, slightly negative, minus a point, 0.1, negative 0.1. There you go. Down 0.1 in April.
Not good.
Yeah, but federal government admin up 2.2. There you go. Who doesn't like that, right?
And that's related to, I think a lot of that is related to the election, because these are the numbers for April,
yeah,
when the election was held. But yeah, and also services in general. So you look there, finance and insurance up. But you have to look at the bottom, the sort of what we're dealing with here. We got zero there for the middle, and then 0.1 and minus 0.1. It's kind of like, in other words, this is just stagnation, really, isn't it? It's just even manufacturing, which looks like, oh wow, that's really gone down. That's just, it's still under 0.2% decline.
Oh.
So we're basically just standing still, which obviously is a bad thing in a country like Canada that has an extraordinarily fast-growing population because of immigration. So if your economy sits still, you're getting considerably poorer as more and more people come into the country.
And then it looks like May might be, there's concerns that May might be a contraction as well, which would put us in a technical recession. There you go. So 2 quarters of contracting GDP.
But they do enjoy a revision, don't they, our friends in the statistics community? So they might pull out, actually, it wasn't 0.1 decline. It was just 0 or something like that. And then it's not a technical recession.
And then the unemployment rate is the other thing that's the big worry. And, that rose to 6.9 in April. And then there's talk from some of the banks that that's going to go to over 7. That would be really bad for the economy. And to me, that's why the Bank of Canada needs to step in here and lower rates. It needs to give some juice to this economy, like it really does. And I know that they're worried about all the tariffs and that, but I mean, they need to convince Canadians or people to invest in Canada. And I just don't see that right now. We see lots of photo ops from the Liberals, but we don't see any meat and potatoes on the plate. They got that bill passed. We're going to talk about that later. But where's the deals? Where's stuff happening? Like where do we see stuff happening? Because all I see right now is photo ops, and the economy is looking worse and worse and worse and worse.
But talking about investment, as we're facing this doom and gloom, all this very depressing economic news, and the government's just passed its centerpiece law. It's really the Bill C5. That's basically what this government is for. It's to pass that law and do things. They've done it. They've done it in record time. Here we are crying out for investment and some positive economic news. But rather than going to work on a project and putting one forward and say, okay, we're going to do this across the country. Instead of doing that, they've all gone on vacation for 3 months.
I know that just makes no sense at all. That's what I'm saying. Like they're saying, Carney and them said that this is the worst crisis that Canada's faced since the war. Yet let's take a break.
And the guy in charge of energy projects, supposedly Tim Hodgson, he said that we need to approach it as if we're in wartime. Wow. So again, I mean, we were having a laugh, weren't we, yesterday about what would Winston Churchill be doing? Would he be asking the Yorkshirites if they approve of building Spitfires? In this situation, it's almost like, all right, lads, the Luftwaffe is over Kent. We're being bombed right now, actually, but we've obviously got this 12-week vacation. So, we'll get that vacation out of the way, and then we'll shoot down Jerry in the sky.
Yeah. And then there's still a
It's
bunch of
just a
things.
joke. It's an insult. When they use this language, what I would like, if there's anybody trying to get anything at all from what I'm saying here, if there's any purpose to it, I would like people to recognize that you are being insulted again and again and again. This is an insult directed at you, at the Canadian public. You're being insulted by these people when they use language like this, because the language and the actions are completely at odds. They don't match at all. And it's just an insult. They think you're stupid. And how many times have we said that in the last few months? But it's sadly true.
And then this scandal in BC is turning into more of a national scandal as well. Because now we learned, and we did the interview yesterday, Federal Infrastructure Bank provided $1 billion in financing for the BC Ferries purchase for 4 new Chinese-made ships. So we shipped jobs, purchase of aluminum and steel and all that stuff, and we used federal funds to purchase these ferries from China, of all places. And then we interviewed, you and I interviewed Dan Elvis, our local Okanagan MP here, and we're going to play a small clip from that interview. I think we're going to play a small clip anyway, but he's going to try and find it here. But we did interview Dan on that, and it's, oh, we're ready to go. So Dan Elvis had some strong words there, but as soon as we'll just be patient and wait for this clip here.
Important to note as well, I'd say that the bank in their very long press release, and they did some interviews as well, they've basically, they said, actually, not basically, they clearly said that this project would not be possible without this loan, which is just another thing to bear in mind when we hear the kind of natter coming out of David Eby about who bid and who didn't bid and the financials of the contract. It wasn't even possible without this money. I mean, that suggests, therefore, that it's not an economical project, is it? It's not really a self-sustaining project that's naturally come about. BC Ferries isn't like that anyway. It loses money, doesn't it, on a lot of its routes. In fact, I think most of its routes. So this isn't about kind of like value for money, really, is it? When it comes down to it, they could have put a bit more money up and done it in Canada or done it in South Korea or somewhere like that, I think is what that says to me.
Let's play this clip here. The infrastructure money that's in there. And so Eby either didn't know that they got the $1 billion loan, and Friedland didn't know that they lent it to him.
So look, this you either can attribute to malice or incompetence. The fact that we have 2 leading politicians in Canada, both unaware of what the government, their respective governments, are doing to outsource Canadian jobs is atrocious. This is why Conservatives were not just pointing fingers at the government. We actually want to have some transparency and some accountability. That's why I've been caucusing this whole morning with my Conservative members that are on the Transportation, Infrastructure and Communities Committee, because that is a federal public forum where members of Parliament can ask tough questions. And the fact that we just found out these details today is shameful. It's shameful that the Canadian Infrastructure Bank only revealed this to the Globe and Mail in response to a question and wasn't outright transparent. This is not a transparent.
You can go watch that full interview on NowMedia, and it's on our site there in Kelowna Now as well. And I think that interview is like over 30 minutes there. So lots of stuff said in that interview. But some of the stuff that even came from the CEO, Nicholas Jimenez, said in an interview, the BC Ferries CEO said that he was surprised and disappointed by Friedland's letter. He said it's a general tone and direction letter. What we would like to see is the federal government to be a partner and deliver the ferry. Well, they are a partner. They gave you $1 billion. And what kind of partner are you looking for? And then
and they said the project would have been impossible without that money. So they're more than just like helping you out a bit. Like, it's because of them that you're doing this.
And it's 2 federal cabinets that are kind of like, and this is what Dan Elvis points out in this interview, is that not only is the transport minister there, Chrystia Friedland there, but also Gregor Robertson, a former BC, well, a BC resident here, a former mayor in BC. Now he's in charge of that money. He's the Canada Infrastructure Bank, and he right away said, well, let's have a meeting, because I don't think he knew what was going on either. And he said that...
he's going to be briefed. He's going to be briefed on it. I mean, this could be... The thing is, I don't think we would learn until they start to write their memoirs if this is the case. But it could theoretically be the case that the public servants just didn't have their ducks in a row, and they just didn't think it was important to inform these ministers. But then you would think, and for Gregor Robertson, maybe you could excuse him because he's new and he probably doesn't even know his way around Parliament, never mind stuff like this. But somebody like Chrystia Freeland, who's kind of been at the center of power in Ottawa for a very long time, you'd expect her to know this kind of thing and have her own, communication networks.
We've been talking about this story now for weeks now, and we've said from the beginning that this could turn out to be one of the biggest scandals for the BC NDP. And it's starting to look like it's getting worse and worse and worse. The more you pick at it, the more stuff comes to the surface that doesn't look good. Sam Cooper put out this tweet as well. Watch the Bureau tomorrow for a deep dive. The Quiet Invasion, how transnational crime and Chinese state actors infiltrated the Vancouver ports, right? And that's Harman Bagu's on this story as well, right? Today, because he sent an open letter to Chrystia Freeland demanding answers, and that's what that interview with Dan Elvis is talking about too. They want an inquiry, and he's just got to convince one Bloc member or one Liberal MP to start an inquiry into this funding of the BC ferries.
Yeah, I mean, it would be interesting to see what the Bloc's view of that is. But yeah, you'd think that would be right up the Bloc's street, but maybe not. It doesn't really relate to Quebec, I guess. So.
And Canada, hang on to your wallet, because here it comes. The Liberals are already talking about tax increases. Remember when he ran? No tax increases, tax cuts. We're going to get some tax cuts, but here we go.
Middle class tax cut.
Here we go. The Liberal appointed senator says a trading tax could happen. A $49 billion a year tax on financial trades and transactions proposed by New Democrats 26 years ago could happen, says the Liberal appointed chair of the Senate Budget Committee. You got to get revenue from people. Let's say you put a 2% tax on buying shares, which when people would buy them would be paying taxes on the transaction. That's another reason why capital was fleeing Canada. Because here we go again. They're not looking for how to drive revenue. They're looking at how to get more taxation. And that's been the kind of the MO for the Liberals and the NDP here. How do we get more taxes out of the people?
I think at this point as well, it's very, very reasonable for the Canadian public, the Canadian taxpayers, to ask, if they got this money, $50 billion a year, what would they do with it? Does anybody actually have faith that they would spend that wisely? I feel like, again, we go back to our theme, don't we? Trust in institutions, trust in the democratic system. I don't think there would be many people in this country that would say, yeah, great, another $50 billion for Ottawa. Like, they'll spend that really wisely. They'll do something really clever with that.
But it's odd here because they're saying they need to find taxation somewhere. Did they not listen in the election there that Brookfield is one of the biggest tax dodgers in Canada? Why not go after the easy thing? There's a tax dodger there, $5 billion, right there. And then who do they go after? Let's go after Canadians. Let's go after Canadians till they decide that they don't want to be here anymore. Just unbelievable.
But it's also the case that hundreds of years ago it became with Adam Smith and people like that, and I mean, obviously many people in between. It's become pretty much a fact now, and a fact that people don't argue about, that private citizens can allocate capital in a much more efficient way than a government, than the sort of central state. I mean, we saw this experiment played out on a massive scale, didn't we, during the Cold War, where the Soviet Union adopted that method and financially collapsed, couldn't compete with a system where private citizens allocate capital. It's just, I know that's maybe a bit of an obscure point to raise, but this is like basic stuff, isn't it? I would have thought this is like economics 101, and yet it's being suggested by extremely well-paid, powerful people who are supposed to represent us. It's just rather odd.
And then to add insult to injury, here you go. Michael Wernick, in an opinion piece in the Globe and Mail, says Canada needs a defense and security tax to meet its new NATO commitments head on. An earmarked tax would remind Canadians that their safety and security doesn't come free. I think Canadians already know that nothing comes for free in Canada. We've got a really bad healthcare system that we pay a lot for. We've got, yeah, I don't want to get ranty, but like, you know, we pay for a lot of things that underdeliver, overpay and underdeliver.
And there's a huge amount of waste, obviously. I mean, Mark Carney, I don't know who he expects to fool, but he's trying to pretend that there aren't any sacrifices attached to this potentially 150, 200 billion, who knows what it would be, expenditure on the military, taking up like a quarter or a third of all expenditure if we go ahead with this 5% target. He's trying to pretend that there aren't any trade-offs. I mean, obviously there are trade-offs. It's going to mean either much higher taxes or it's going to mean massive cuts to, you know, all kinds of things, all kinds of aspects of the state. So, I mean, right now, looking at the landscape now, it seems a lot more likely that it's going to be tax increases, isn't it? Because the Liberal Party seem to have set themselves up as the no cuts party. That seems to be like all they stand for, pretty much. In the election, their primary attack against Poilievre was, oh, he's going to cut things. He's going to cut everything. But, you know, if you need to find a gigantic increase into the defense budget, I mean, that's got to mean cuts, hasn't it?
Yeah,
if you were sensible.
This opinion article by the Globe and Mail there, are they doing the work for the government here, setting it up so that you have to, like, you're like cheering for a tax increase so that you can fund the military? You have to realize that we already fund the military. They just waste the money.
And have done for a long time.
Yeah.
But it's just, the fact that this is the go-to, isn't it? It's kind of like there's an emergency or there's a problem. It's just like hit the giant red button that says tax. You know, that's just, what else can we do, guys? They don't even want to consider the possibility that maybe some entire federal government departments, like the whole department building and everything, need to be cut. Maybe that is also an option. I mean, have a look if you feel like self-harming. Have a look at the list of the federal government departments. Just look at them and look at what they do. There are quite a lot on that list that it's kind of like, what the hell? Like, why does that even exist? But rather than talk about that, it's just, no, we'll just tax people. It's just tax. And it's because those departments, they don't really do anything. Like the women's department. Can you believe there's a department for women? I mean, okay.
Well, there's in BC, they're still paying for the COVID app. Like somebody's monitoring the COVID app. You know, they're still paying for it a year later, and they just realize that.
Anyway, those departments, they're not there to do stuff. They're there to win elections, is what I was going to say, and that's what it's about. I think it's so that the Liberals or whoever can go to the podium and say, we're going to give an extra $5 billion to the women's department, and we're going to give this much money to whatever department. And it's all about like, now vote for us, please.
Yeah, so the big thing, again, why is this Liberal senator not pointing out the $5 billion that Brookfield dodged in taxes here? And then how many companies have that bike shop in the Bahamas as their residence? And how many of them are Canadian companies? Why not look there first instead of looking into the average Canadian's pocket? That is bloody shameful. But anyway, Bill C5, they got it okayed, so they pushed that through. You said that's the most important bill, so let's see what they do with it. Like, actually, let's see what they do with it. So they asked for all this power, and the Conservatives gave them that power because it passed with, like an overwhelming majority. The Conservatives stood alongside the Liberals, and even some Liberals voted against it, and the Bloc, obviously, and the NDP against it. But there you go. So now, what are you going to do with it, I guess, is the question. But
there's also some people there are some people who are focused on process, like more pragmatic-minded people, analysts and commentators, who are they're coming out and they're saying, all right, good, you've done this bill, it sounds good, but everything's just going to end up in court. Like the First Nations, the sort of environmental left, all the usual suspects, they're just going to sue you, and this is just going to end up in court. And it's not, and therefore the whole sort of enterprise will be futile. So that's another thing to watch. Yeah.
So I mean, here you go. It was passed 306 to 31, and the Prime Minister said that this measure was really, really important. So yeah, you got your really, really important bill passed. Why are we back in Parliament? Why aren't we back in Parliament and getting stuff done? That makes no sense at all. Polyev said he was going to run Parliament until he got much things done.
They need to go visit the bike shop, don't they?
I would go there first, Liberal Senator. Go there first and then make a list. It's probably written right on the door there. Make a list of how many Canadian companies are in there dodging taxes before you reach into the pockets of Canadians.
Yeah, they're not going for that purpose. I'm saying they need to go there to make sure that their financial arrangements are all in order and have a little beach holiday at the same time.
And it looks like we're going to switch to some international news. It looks like Trump made a deal with China. Here, we're going to play a small clip here with Donald Trump.
Jameson, everybody wants to make a deal and have a part of it, right? I know you and Howard and Scott are working overtime, making deals with other countries. Remember a few months ago, the press was saying, do you really have anybody of any interest? Well, we just signed with China yesterday, right? Just signed with China. We have everybody. We're not going to make deals with everybody. Some we're just going to send them a letter, say, thank you very much. You're going to pay 25, 35, 45%. That's the easy way to do it. And my people don't want to do it that way. They want to do some of it, but they want to make more deals than I would do. But we're having some great deals. We have one coming up.
There you go. And it's the deal was with China. Here, and this is U.S. Treasury Secretary Bessent just said U.S. tariffs on China down to 30%. Those things went to like some crazy number. And China's tariffs are 10%. So they said they got a deal. And then there's another deal here. And this is your friend from the EU. We're going to listen to her for a couple of seconds here.
State of play in our trade talks with the United States. President Trump and I had a good discussion at the G7 summit in Canada. Back then, we agreed to speed up the work with a clear goal, an agreement before the 9th of July. Today, we received the latest US document for further negotiations. We are assessing it as we speak right now. So our message today is clear. We are ready for a deal. At the same time, we are preparing for the possibility that no satisfactory agreement is reached. This is why we consulted on a rebalancing list. And we will defend the European interest as needed. In short, all options remain on the table.
And then CNBC reported that Europe will buy more American weapons and pave the way for a trade deal. That's what the EU Council chief says. NATO's agreement is to more than double its defense spending. And we talked about that, like, companies like Raytheon and Lockheed Martin and stuff like Palantir are rubbing their hands together in this increased spending for arms around the world. And there you go. More spending.
But you're right to point out that there's so much money going to be flying around the military-industrial complex, isn't there? An excellent time well, maybe a few months ago would have been an excellent time to buy stocks in those companies.
You better hurry up and buy them in Canada, otherwise you're going to get a transaction tax. Yeah.
Well, and also the Americans might start coming in and charging, because that was one of their threats, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was on dividends, actually, not on the stocks itself. But yeah. And then this last one here is Carney was talking about possibly buying weapons from Europe. But if Europe's buying the weapons from America, what are we buying from Europe? Are we just paying a markup, or what's going on there? Most of the weapons industry is mainly in North America. I mean, the United States, although France makes quite a few weapons as well. But the majority of it happens in the United States or China. And I don't think we want to be buying their weapons.
And then the Russians have got like some pretty dodgy kit that may or may not break down after using it for 10 minutes. No, the Europeans have quite a lot. The Germans, and there's like Saab in Sweden. I think Sweden have more than one, actually. The British have got some extremely sophisticated military equipment. And then the French, as you said, like Rafale or whatever they call that one.
Yeah.
The Italians, it's definitely there. There's no question about it. The Europeans they've got the technology. It's just, can they build it at scale and do they have the what they would call social acceptability here? That's what the term used in Canada. I mean, that's also important in Europe, because the population is pretty sort of anti-war. They don't really like weapons, guns, and things like that. So there are lots of political questions.
Yeah, and I was going to play this next clip, but we won't play it. It just CNN now backtracking and saying that the Midnight Hammer operation is starting to look like a success here because they definitely used early intel that was low grade intel that would even said in the report that it wasn't a success. But here's one that's interesting here, and this is John Fetterman, a Democrat. Actually, some of the words that he said here is pretty interesting. So we're going to play this small clip here from John Fetterman.
I'll say this: I love that man, and he's coming.
It's very quiet.
Principled side, but I'm going to vote no on that simply because I would never want to restrict any future president, Republican or Democrat, to do this kind of a military kind of exercise that was very successful. This is it.
Anyway, there's some support there for that operation. It's starting to sound like a lot more outlets are now considering it to be a successful operation. But let's
Fetterman
move
has
on.
really changed his tune, hasn't he? Because he was kind of he was a bit of a target for the right in America. He was considered to be like a lunatic, far lefty sort of thing, but he's changed his tune big time. It's actually, didn't he have a stroke or something like that? He was really terribly ill.
Yeah,
He
I
had to go
think.
to hospital, and he seems to have changed his political outlook.
Well, what if Fetterman has said? And because yeah, he was like they would say almost like on the AOC spectrum there. But what he said recently is that he's just doing what's good for Americans, and he's going to stand up for what's good for Americans, and that's where he's basing his decision. So, according to him, anyway. Closer to home here, Alberta in the news again, and this time Premier Smith says Alberta's desire for leaving Canada has never been higher. So they got to do something with that Bill C-5 and make something happen for Alberta because the frustration is getting higher and higher, and the anger over the federal government, what she called 9 bad laws, have stifled Alberta's oil industry, and that is our golden goose. Alberta and Saskatchewan are the golden geese of Canada. And people, if they don't realize that, then they are not being honest with themselves.
I mean, Danielle Smith here, she's like, part of her strategy, it seems to me, is to use the threat of separation to get what she wants, to present herself as like the moderate middleman, middle woman, perhaps. So I think that, she actually now has a vested interest in maybe exaggerating the separatist sentiment. It's actually one of her biggest weapons, I think, in this argument with Ottawa. I mean, and I'm sure that Carney and Katie Telford and all those operators, they know that she's doing that. So it's quite a strange situation where I feel like it's kind of, they're still waiting to see how serious this is. And that election, the by-election, they did pretty badly, didn't they? They got about 20% of the vote.
Yeah, the separatist movement, nothing, yeah.
Yeah, but it's hardly impressive. It's hardly like, oh God, if it was a real, if there was a real kind of, zeitgeist shift,
if they would have
they
won,
could maybe have won or come second or something like that, but they didn't. So I think it remains to be seen. And I think probably next year will be when we find out, because that petition's already gone through, hasn't it, to have a referendum on it. That's when I think the attention will be drawn to it.
But the future of Canada's economy rests on getting something done with this Bill C-5. This is what the Liberals wanted. They got their Bill C-5. The Conservatives supported it, so they got it. So now it's up to them to do something with it. And that's where the rubber needs to meet the road, and that's what Danielle Smith is saying as well. She's using that separatist movement, obviously, like the Carney Liberals used the Trump card. She's using that card to push it along and speed it up.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think a lot, that's the political context, isn't it?
Yeah. And then we're going to talk about Bill C-18 a little bit. Here's a little thing about Bill C-18. Here's a little, like a meme. We didn't put it in the meme section because we were just like, it just says, name another country that subsidizes its media as much as Canada on a per person basis. Can you name any countries?
Well, the British certainly do. That's one. And then lots of not very nice countries, I'm sure, like Venezuela and so on.
North Korea, China, Russia, Iran.
Well,
Yeah.
Russia's a strange one. Yeah. But definitely the British. I mean, in Britain it's a little bit different because you have to get a TV license. If you own a TV, you have to get a TV license, which pays for the BBC. And that's even if you don't watch the BBC. And it's a criminal offense to not do it. So it's kind of like the government enforces a criminal law to make you pay for your state media. But I suppose the same is true for the CBC, actually, isn't it? Because if you withhold your taxes, then you'll be prosecuted, won't you? So.
And in BC, we have a little bit here, and it's just this same old, and then Lillooet's beleaguered yard closes down once again. I don't know, what's the count here? Do we know? Like, it's got to be in the 20s now.
No, we need it's coming too fast, isn't it, at the minute, to be able to add it all up. But from time to time, we speak to Interior Health about that. On that note, however, if you look in our inbox, our newsroom inbox, we just got an email about concerning Susan Brown, the CEO of Interior Health, who, according to Interior Health, is concluding her tenure as President and Chief Executive Officer, and will now focus on supporting the organization in its transition.
Yeah. So we figured that, and I called that last week. I thought she wouldn't even last out. Well, I think it was this week we said that she was going to resign. So there you go. So we called that last week.
But this is like not even a resignation. This is just a go away, please, and you can still retire, and everything's fine, but just go away, and we're going to put somebody else in charge.
Yeah, it's their happy medium, I guess. But I mean, I figured I'd reached out again for the interview. I said, where's that interview that they promised, or that they said they were looking into and trying to make happen? Obviously, it's not going to happen now because that's it. But I guess it'll remain to be seen. The question that we had asked is, how deep does this toxic culture go? And that's the real question. There is that open house here in July, here the first part of July, that the Conservatives are putting on, that they invited the Health Minister, Josie Osborne, to attend. And as far as I know, she still has not attending that.
Yeah, so they've appointed Sylvia Weir as she's now going to be the interim head of Interior Health. And she's very experienced and been around a long time. And like Susan Brown, worked in both Britain and Canada. This is the question that I asked Gavin Dew, though. It was like, okay, you get rid of Susan Brown, which is what he wanted to do. How do you know that the person that comes in next isn't going to face the same problems and have the same outlook? You know, that's, you know, you phrased it a bit more colorfully there, didn't you? Like, how deep does the rock go? But it's kind of, you can do that. It's like, you know, at a dysfunctional sports team or something like that, you can get rid of the head coach, get a new one in, and the team still doesn't really play very well, and it's kind of because the problems are deeper than that. So I guess remains to be seen.
The Okanagan mayor sent that letter 2 years ago to Adrian Dix, and we only learned about that letter recently, and they were talking about the same thing, that there was no communication from Susan Brown's Interior Health. They complained about it 2 years ago, and nothing was done. Basically, they put that letter underneath somebody's desk and hid it there until, you know, somebody leaked it out there.
Yeah, exactly, because they wanted to get rid of Susan Brown. That was the reason. I would guess anyway.
She's the sacrifice. But again, the question is, because she said she was shocked and she understood that there was, in an op-ed she wrote to us, that there was a toxic culture. Which also says then, does it go up or below, or does it do both? Is like, where is this toxic culture?
Exactly, yeah. And that's the really difficult question, isn't it? Because it's easy just to fire someone, get rid of someone. Yeah. The harder question is, how do you really fix it? Like, what's actually necessary? And the same is true in government. And that's kind of, to take it back to our chum, Donald Trump there, that's kind of what he's been experiencing. Like, when in his first term, got into power and sort of expected things to change, but it doesn't change. You replace the top dude and it stays the same unless you go in there with like a comprehensive plan to really reform everything, the whole bureaucracy.
And he did go into his second term a lot different with a different team, whereas the last time I think he trusted that the process would work. But lots of times the tentacles the roots are wrapped around everything. We see this, you know, that's what, you know, like the people saying when Mark Carney said this is a new government, there's laughter from the Conservatives there.
Yeah, and there are analogies. It's all organizations, and I think Interior Health is a massive organization, obviously. So I think it's a fair analogy to compare it to government as a whole.
And let's move on to markets. The markets. We're going to play a small clip here from CNN on the markets itself, right, as they are poised to hit record highs. Let's play the small clip.
Market milestone. Both the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ are on track for all-time highs. This would be the first record high for the S&P since
wild,
February.
considering the drops that you were on just talking about last month.
Yeah, it's been an absolutely unbelievable ride. I've never covered anything quite like this. Look at this chart.
Yeah.
This is the S&P just since this year started. And look at that epic sell-off back in March and April. That's because investors were freaking out about the president's Liberation Day tariffs. This market meltdown was so bad that some people on Wall Street were calling it Obliteration Day, right? Traders, economists, investors, Fed officials, everyone was worried that those sky-high tariffs were going to cause a recession. But then what happened? What caused the market to start to go straight up? April 9th, the president walks back those tariffs, and the market's really been on fire ever since then. Look at this. The S&P 500, just since that low in April, has gained.
There you go. I said that the markets were going to go up, and CNN at that time said that was the end of the world.
Well, it's kind of cable news in general, isn't it? They have to have an end of the world all the time, and it's another one of the ends of the world that completely off topic here, but North Korea. I haven't heard much about North Korea. You just mentioned North Korea earlier on, but you don't hear much about North Korea, do you? But when I was a lad, that's all the likes of CNN used to talk about. That's just gone now.
Well, I just saw something on North Korea that Kim Jong-un just launched some big resorts that had some huge water slide.
Yeah, it looks quite nice, doesn't it? A bit of beachfront property.
There you go. Market's up substantially this morning as well. The Dow is up 570 points. Up about 1.3%. Yeah, so it's all the stuff is in record territory. Gasoline is at I think 4-year lows in some areas of the United States. So they're getting their ducks in a row. It seems like a lot of stuff is happening down in the U.S. And then obviously that deal, that midnight hammer thing, defanging Iran, which we talked about, how many presidents have taken a whack at that and not been successful. And gold selling off again more today. Gold off $53. And gold is that risk asset, and obviously money pouring into the stock market. Money leaves those risk assets like gold, and or the safe haven assets, I should say, and then they pour into things like the stock market. And then Bitcoin. Again, the wind is in the sails of Bitcoin. We played that clip yesterday for people that watch. That Bitcoin was dead. What was it, around 2,500 when the CNBC called it dead? They did a funeral for it. They did an on-air funeral.
Was it not a bit lower? Was it like $6,000 or something? I mean,
that's something.
Very temptingly low, actually.
You can go back and watch that show this morning. Bitcoin up. It's at 107,000 and change US and change. In Canadian dollars, it's a lot more for sure. And then in oil obviously had ran up a bit there as that Iran conflict there with Israel had been, getting worse. But oil is off now again, $65 for West Texas Intermediate. And the discounted Western Canadian Select is now at $52.89. And then it's a discount because we have no other customers. It's some of the most discounted oil in the world. And there you go. And again, a fact that is undeniable because we don't have that other pipeline that we can sell our oil into. So we have one customer.
You might as well call it gold. It kind of is gold, isn't it?
Black gold. They call it black gold. They do as well call it black gold. And then this chart here, Elon Musk posted this, and this is what you and I talk about all the time. It's all about energy. It's all about energy. And look at this. China ramping up electricity, and the United States fairly flat. Look at that.
This is one of those areas where China can kind of outmaneuver the Western countries because they can just, they don't have to get a Bill C5, do they? They don't have to go to court to try and build something. They just say coal station now, and it's built in like 2 months.
President Xi has said he will not impoverish his nation by imposing carbon taxes on his people. And they also, like you said, they put coal plants into production. They put LNG. They put solar farms. They have some of the largest solar farms in the world. And the SMRs, they're building SMRs, and they have nuclear plants. They do everything, because guess what? AI is going to be the future of this world, and it will be the country that dominates the world. And the one thing that it needs to eat is a lot of energy. And look who's building energy. And
it is
Canada,
a real concern, actually, isn't it?
What do you think our chart looks like here for energy? We're going to talk about it later.
I wouldn't imagine it's much different to the US, yeah.
We're going to talk about it here later, because many of the people in Canada, one of the Conservatives talk about how this EV mandate by the Liberals is going to kill our grid. We do very little to increase our grid. We just talk about like nonsense stuff about how it's going to die. Actually, I believe EVs can help the grid, but we won't get into that. But here's this Trump plans executive orders to supercharge AI power grids. And that's where Canada can also play a big role in that, because we have some of the best uranium stockpiles and uranium companies in the world, like Cameco, and even the development properties like Denison, and because it's like bullish for the next gen nuclear and grid plays. So if you're looking at stocks in Canada, look no farther than Cameco, Denison. There's tons of them here in Canada. We are one of the leaders in that, and then we'll build C5 like Cameco is literally on fire right now. There you go, Cameco. Since all this started, Cameco. You want to take a shot at it?
Couldn't possibly.
There you go, Cameco at all-time highs, banging on the door of $100. Like Cameco shot up like a giant rocket ship, Cameco. One of Canada's larger uranium companies in the world. Like, you can look at that chart, it's bloody vertical. I don't think I can put it up here right now, but for those at home, the symbol for Cameco is CCO. Go take a look at that. Cameco, one of the leaders, and that's something Canadians can be very proud of, is Cameco. And Scott Moe, it's in the backyard where Scott Moe calls his place Saskatchewan.
Massive strategic asset that we have there. That's not often discussed. Just like potash, that's such an important asset.
And
yeah,
guess who
exactly.
has that?
Saskatchewan.
That's what I keep saying. The golden geese of Canada are Saskatchewan and Manitoba. And it used to be British Columbia. It used to be in there as well. But some of the policies here in BC have kiboshed our LNG, have kiboshed the pipeline, have kiboshed like mining has slowed down. Forestry is basically in a shambles. And because when we chase away investment with more taxation and all that stuff, and no certainty and regulations and all that kind of stuff. So, but Cameco doing very well. DML is another one to look at on the stock market that hasn't run up as much right now yet because it is a development stock. But Cameco, like a virtual rocket ship there. Go look at that. One of Canada's shining stars. Shining stars.
Yeah, I've just done that. I don't know. I went on World in Data there. What Elon had pointed to, and I've got Canada there. I don't know if we can actually show everyone else that, but we can look at it if not, and then you can see Canada there, a real bottom feeder. Not doing a lot, but still more than the British, despite being half the size in population.
Can you put that up, Rommel? This one here. Is there any way to get it up there? No. Well,
it's just complete stagnation. It's almost a perfect straight line, isn't it? Just nothing, no increase.
Why would it increase? Why?
It's not like the future demands that or anything.
That's what I'm saying. Like, and here, like in BC, we won't allow SMRs.
Yep. Well, I mean, this is the thing. There's just been so much kind of so many options. It's almost like choices have been made, haven't they? And it's kind of like, nah, I think we'll choose not to do that. And it's for fairly obscure reasons. Like with the nuclear thing, what is the real rationale for that? It seems to be we just don't like nuclear. I know it's quite an earthquake-prone part of the world, but the Japanese can. If the Japanese can have nuclear, I'm sure BC can.
Well, there you go. There you go. It's up on the thing there. And Canada is the bottom feeder there.
Yeah, you've got to like squint your eyes, really focus, and you'll see Canada there right at the bottom.
The bottom right, and then also United Kingdom there is actually trying to make Canada look good.
I just put them in. I just thought, out of morbid curiosity, I just thought I'm gonna press the UK button. Bear in mind the population of Britain is at least around 70 million. Nobody really knows how many actually live there. So close to double the Canadian population, and yet they generate less energy than Canada and seem to have less desire to increase their capacity. It's just feeble, isn't it? It's actually that's kind of like an emergency almost. Looking at that, it's a disaster.
Can we put the stock chart of Cameco up there? I put a link there to it, or I put a screenshot there. See if we can get it up there, but see if it works. Yeah, again, a shining star. There you go. Look at that.
Happy days for them.
Actually, I knew one of my friends actually coached the kid's son for Cameco. They played on the hockey team there, and they got to use the Cameco jet to go to some tournaments. Whoops, I didn't say that, did I? There you go. There you go. And then Ruby Lee, she's getting the keys to the first retail store, and this is only in the malls that she owns. So they're giving her the keys to see what she can do with it. So BC billionaire Ruby Lee has received the keys to the store taken over from Hudson Bays, and that's the stores that she owns, and that's in the Tawasin Mills Mall. That's the one that's going to open there. And she says that she's going to have these stores that are going to stock apparel, jewelry, makeup, and also feature a children's place-based entertainment offers, dining experiences, and areas for cosplay. I don't know. Sounds like a market to me, like an open market.
Well, another interesting bit is here, which says, speaking through a Mandarin interpreter. Yeah. Okay. She said she would name them after herself, Ruby Lou. So it's just kind of, what a terrible fate for Hudson's Bay.
They're picking at the carcass of Canada's oldest company. There you go, picking at the carcass. And so we're going to move on to our technology and transportation sector here. And then this is this is the guy from Saudi Arabia, I believe. And he says that people need to stop picking on Elon Musk and let him do the stuff that he can do well. We robot, we think, we connect, we explore, we enable, and we move. And that's Tesla, XAI, SpaceX, Neuralink, the Boring Company. And then also this is another guy that I follow out there, Dalton Brewer. Tesla's the most disrespected American company on the planet. A lot of negative press on it. I know you and I talked about it, and you were kind of like saying things too, but I just want to just say one thing for this. If Tesla's robo-taxi is successful, it will likely be the most transformational thing we've seen in decades and decades. It will be a game changer. And the people that are noticing a few small bugs in a couple of days when they launch it early and saying that it's not going to go, just think what this company will be if this is successful. And then
especially if it can be combined with the Optimus robot, then that's delivery men out of business.
This is this big, and it could change the world this much, and then people focus on the couple of negatives. They don't see the vision of it, right? And most people, and Elon Musk is also one of his things, is like you go early. You don't wait till everything is perfect. And a lot of people in life don't do anything because they're waiting for that perfect moment. There is no perfect moment, right? And failure is on the path to success. You're going to encounter failure many times. SpaceX was almost a dead company. 3 rocket blow-ups, and I think he had one last shot at it, and it took off the last, you know what I mean? It saved that company just at the end here. So people should look at this more seriously. Tesla, according to many people, could be the most important company in the world. Anyway, Listen to Sawyer Merritt, to follow him too, and there's some analysts like moving the stock up. So everybody that's making their decisions based on political motives on a company like this need to give their head a shake. Need to actually give their head a shake and understand what's going on in the world. And not every decision should be politically motivated. And your politics are getting in the way of your common sense. This is the guy I follow as well, Shea Buhler. And lots of people talking about YouTube, or Google is dead because search is kind of dying. I don't use it a lot, but they're saying it's moving to YouTube. YouTube is like a juggernaut, like a behemoth, right? And AI and YouTube and Alphabet, the stock, the parent company Alphabet. AI is one of the the top companies. Alphabet is one of the top companies in AI as well. So don't count them out as dead.
Yeah, I mean, as long as YouTube is there. It's their crown jewel, isn't it? And
It's
I've
the
noticed that Meta
#1
has
property.
started to really lean on WhatsApp now, which is kind of their not very discussed, not often discussed crown jewel that has like billions of users every single day.
Worldwide
They're
users.
starting to try and tap that for revenue now, which is going to be an interesting one to watch.
And then Elon Musk just pushed this out. He says he's grinding away. He likes to work all night, grinding away on Grok all night with the team, XAI team, and that Grok 4 is about to be released just after July 4th. He's got lots going on. Like, no wonder, that's a good thing he left Doge, because he has so many. They got their Tesla event coming up too, and so many things going on with his companies. And there you go. And then here's Brian Lilly with the Taxpayers Federation. They're talking about if we all move to EVs tomorrow, according to what the Liberal EV mandate is. Obviously, it can't happen in tomorrow, but here's just some comedy for you.
So the federal government, commissioned a bunch of smart people to do a report. How much will it cost to switch to electric vehicles? They said upwards of close to $300 billion.
300.
To put that into perspective, because it's like you can't really quite picture that amount of money.
But if we all take back our empties and we check for the change in the couch.
I won't play too much with it, but there you go. $300 billion. There you go.
He was just about to deliver his punchline now, wasn't he? You cut him off. $300 billion is that's a substantial proportion of the annual budget, isn't it? I mean, it's what is it? It's more than half, I think, more than half the annual budget.
And they tariff the Teslas now, so they say nobody's buying electric EVs right now. Well, because there's none worth buying. So there you go.
People haven't even heard of them. If you ask people to name EVs but you can't say Tesla, they'd be like, Nissan Leaf, is that still going?
And then there's an editorial from the Toronto Sun. They must be listening to this show, because they're saying it's time to kill the EV mandate. Again, this is going to be like the thing that they're going to finally have to cave on. No different than the carbon tax. They just keep pretending that they're not going to, but like doesn't make any sense, right? Let's move into our health section. The food professor putting out there, and people, this is the convenience is actually killing some people's inflation budgets. Ordering groceries from Sobeys on Uber Eats is 45% more expensive than a trip to the store. And then I talked about this too, and Uber Eats, I tried it with Costco just to see how it worked. That chicken that they sell at Costco for $7.99, the nuclear chicken, I call it, the one that they roast there. It's $10.99 if you get it delivered by Uber Eats, plus then the fees, right? So it's $10.99. The chicken is $10.99, plus then the delivery fee, and then the service fee, and then the fee, fi fo fum. Lots of fees, and then also they ask for a tip at the end of that.
Yeah.
So there you go.
No, and obviously the tax is going to be higher because of all the additional, markups.
Well, there's fees, and then there's taxes on the fees.
Exactly, yeah. But no, I did that once as well with Costco, but it wasn't Uber Eats. It was some other. I think maybe it was through like the Costco website. I think they direct you to some company. Yeah, but then that's also marked up massively. So it's all right, I suppose, if you just have no concern for money whatsoever. But realistically, getting your food delivered, it's gonna cost you a lot.
Get off your largeness and get out there, and it'll help you with your physical fitness as well. Right?
Yeah, and you get to have a $1.50 hot dog and Pepsi.
This is our health section here. So this next image here, if this is what your health imagery looks like, you could use some help.
I could use some help. I could use one of those double cheeseburgers.
That is my go-to if I go to McDonald's, is a double cheeseburger for sure. My wife doesn't want
And
me.
you've got to get large fries, haven't you? Even though that's the real sin, the fries. But they're so nice.
My wife doesn't let me eat the fries anymore. She guilts me all the time. Says those are full of seed oils. Like, I think there's like 6 or 7 ingredients in fries, and you think, like, how could that be?
Yeah,
right?
Preservatives and stuff like that.
Well, no, it's the potatoes, but then it's in the seed oils. There's a bunch of different seed oils, and then there's the salt. But the salt also has sugar. There's actually sugar in the salt. Why not?
And certainly in that ketchup, that's going to have a lot of salt in. Probably also the chicken nugget batter will have
I think
sugar in it.
Chicken nuggets. We were in Hawaii once, me and my daughter, and they had some kind of like value pack or family pack. And it was this monstrous pack that it looked similar to this. And I think maybe this is what this is. And we just, as a lark, we said we were going to try to eat it all together. And my wife refused to eat any of it. But the pictures
Nikki
of it
plays
after.
it safe then. Doesn't want to touch this.
And there's this in our health section here, and this is 66% of heart deaths happen with no symptoms. So that's what people have to watch. And I've lost a few friends with heart disease. You just have to. I was going to play this clip, but just in interest of time, we won't play it today. But you have to really watch your health, especially as you age. Invest in yourself. Invest in your physical fitness, because stick around, be with your kids. And then we got lots here in the Are You Serious section. Lots and lots and lots here. And we got to think about the Fool of the Day. Anybody has any nominations for Fool of the Day? But look at this table. Mark Carney spent $258,000 on this table at the G7. Somebody made some money on that table. Hey?
Why did they need a new table? Surely they had one there at the because it was at a hotel, wasn't it? They must have had a table.
I'd say go to a different hotel that had a round table.
The King Arthur Inn.
I would have built it for half of that. You know, when Kamala Harris did that podcast with what's the name of that? Some kind of like it's kind of like a sex podcast that she did with, and they recreated the set and spent like hundreds of thousands.
100,000 or something. Yeah.
150,000, I think, to recreate the set, and then the girl said like that it's not even like half as good as what I did, and I did it for like 10,000. Crazy. And then somebody put out this photo here. Breaking photos of the new BC Ferries have just been released by the China shipbuilder. There you go. And then this one here, JB. He says, I'm a 40-plus white male I have a small family, live in Canada, make about $4,000 a month, and then you can read the rest yourself. But there you go.
Lots of people saying things like that these days. Although he's not doing himself any favors with that profile picture, is he?
I didn't see that. Oh, yeah, I didn't even see that. There you go. And then CBC put out this, Canada's GDP shrank in April with a hefty decline in manufacturing. There you go. And then this, Ryan, who I follow, says, May will have a similar decline. It's okay, our government will work for 20 days. You said this right off the bat. And so I figured I'd put it in here because you echoed the same thing. They worked for 20 days and had to take a 12-week vacation. Why not? And then this one here, the Ayatollah is putting out some information here saying he proudly announced Iran has destroyed the 14 bunker buster bombs with its nuclear facilities. That's like saying I broke the guy's hand with my face. And in this clip here from the past, this is so relevant here. Ronald Reagan, one of my more favorite politicians ever. Ronnie had lots to say. Let's listen in on Ronnie here.
You ever notice how every time a Republican takes office, the Democrats start acting like it's the end of the world? I mean, the minute we cut taxes or trim the budget, they start screaming that the sky is falling. Now, don't get me wrong, I admire their consistency. If the stock market surges, they say it's just helping the rich. And if it crashes, they say, yep, that's what happens under Republican leadership. And don't even get me started on foreign policy. A Republican president could be shaking hands with world leaders and signing peace deals, and they'd say, it must be appeasement. But the minute there's tension overseas, They rush to the nearest camera like it's Black Friday saying, "See, we told you the world would catch fire if he was in charge." Now, I've always said...
There you go. You can go find that. It
The
sounds
great
like
communicator.
it
You
sounds
really
like
that voice is just amazing, isn't it? The voice and the delivery. I mean, I'm really not a fan of Ronald Reagan at all. Don't think we have time to talk about why, but that voice and that delivery, you just can't beat it, really, can you? It's basically the best ever.
he delivered many common sense quotes for sure. CNN before the attack, Iran isn't even close to making a bomb, and CNN after the attack, Iran can make a bomb tomorrow. And that I watched that over and over and over again. That's not even a meme.
Well,
Those are
it
the
ties
facts.
in with what Ronnie just said, doesn't it?
Yeah. And then this is the best one. Caitlin Collins is like, she definitely does not like Donald Trump. She's always spitting vinegar at him. But listen to how pumped up she is on Joe Biden here. Listen to this. This is in June of 2024. Listen to this clip here.
President Biden has spent days locked in intense preparation, surrounded by his closest advisors at Camp David. And our sources are telling us tonight that full mock debates are underway at the podium, under the lights. He's even watching tape to know exactly what he's going to see when he steps up to that lectern. His team shot a video during a walkthrough of the CNN studio. And as I reported while covering him at the White House, when Biden prepares, he does so incredibly intensively.
So just how worried were Biden aides before the former president's disastrous debate last summer? According to Ron Klain, his chief of staff, his concerns could not be overstated. At his first meeting with Biden for debate prep, quote, Klain was startled. He'd never seen Biden so exhausted and so out of it. Biden was unaware of what was happening in his own campaign. Halfway through the session, the president excused himself and went off to sit by the pool. The part about the pool, he went off, this is in the middle of debate prep, went off to the pool and he took an...
Poor Caitlin. Like she was actually cheerleading in that little bit there. And it turns out Caitlin was not exactly very either abreast of what was actually happening during those debate preps, or she was full of it. I don't know which one.
I just think, she works for CNN. Possibly there was a certain amount of expectation that she would be nice about Joe Biden, let's say.
And then Melanie Jolie, if we went through her Twitter account or X account and just picked out all the images that she does, I would say 90% of them are photo ops like this. That mean nothing.
Look at that. She is large and in charge. We've got three white men trying to tell her what's going on in Canada, and she's there saying, "No, I will tell you."
But I also think she's saying, if we're going to do this photo, there's no deals here. We're not making deals, but we're doing photo ops.
Yeah, we're doing a lot of nice photos. Something, why can you barely see her? That would be my question. Surely they should have taken the photo. I think they just want to emphasize that there's like three dudes there, like facing her down, and the mighty Melanie is stood there, like fighting her corner. I'm also interested in the shapes, the geometrical shapes there, those weird diamonds. What's going on there?
Where are the deals? That's what I'd like to know. Where are the deals?
This is the deal. This is the deal. This picture's the deal.
If we can sell photo ops, we're killing it. There you go. And then here's a photo op for you. You tell me what you see here.
Well, it does remind me of our good friend Mark a little bit, doesn't it? But let's wait and see. We got called out earlier. Somebody saying that they live in Carleton, with the Ottawa riding that turfed Pierre Poilievre. Somebody called us out saying, when are you going to say something good about Carney? And I've just said something naughty about him, haven't I? But I think we have said good things about Carney. We've said, certainly, we've sort of respected his game, so to speak, the way that he won that election. That was a very you could say it was dishonest, but it was a very smooth victory, wasn't it?
We've given lots of credit to Katie Telford as well.
Yeah, and you can't deny that they played that perfectly. The whole thing, they did it like that's going to be taught in political science classes. It's like, okay, your party's about to be obliterated. You're really unpopular. How are you going to win this election in a couple of months? And they figured it out. Mark Carney in. Trump is Hitler. He's going to invade us. We're Poland now. We're going to be invaded. Poilievre loves Trump. Bob's your uncle. And they did it.
you're standing at the podium, you can sub in this, I will lower taxes. There you go. And then this one here, if you don't like the swear word, then, because the biggest bomb that dropped this year so far is this one here. We're going to play a little remix of it.
You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. They don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Okay, that's good. You get the idea. You can go find that everywhere. That's going to be the biggest bomb that's dropped this year, 2025, other than the BC Ferries.
Trump's memes or Trump's sayings, you know, his viral sayings, translate very well to songs. I don't know if you've heard that one about, you know, when he said they're eating the pets, they're eating the dogs. That one, that was made into a really good song. It's just something about him. He could have been a rapper or something.
He's clearly an entertainer, and he's very nasty in some of his posts. And this one here for poor Chris Christie, right?
I thought that was fake. I didn't realize this was real.
There's a fake post claiming that I was going to drop Chris Christie on one of Iran's nuclear sites. Completely fake news. Everybody knows that a B-2 can't take off. Yeah, that was mean.
The worst one he did for Chris Christie was the one where it's like the drones are flying in loads of bags of McDonald's, and Chris Christie's there with like 10 burgers.
Well,
that was one of Trump's like weirdest posts of all time.
And that I'd say is not true, because Donald Trump would eat all the McDonald's. He would not be sharing.
Exactly. It's a little bit rich coming from him, isn't it? Like McDonald's biggest fan. And he's also Coca-Cola's biggest fan, isn't he?
Yeah, like that's two things. Like, he's definitely all-American. He's all-American. It used to be, baseball, apple pie, and Chevrolet. And I think it's for him, it's McDonald's and Coca-Cola. Two big investments for the late Warren Buffett there. But there you go. And then this one
he's
here
still alive, isn't he? I don't think he's dead.
Oh, right. I was Charlie Munger. Sorry. Yeah. I shouldn't have said that. He's retired.
Still going, mate. 94.
Charlie Munger is the one that passed away. There you go.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Sorry, Warren.
There you go. But the good thing it's in our You Serious section. Here we got backpedaling Brian Seltzer.
There's so much more reporting to do on this.
Go ahead.
More reporting to do on this topic. This is a very complex matter, even though Trump tried to make it sound simple on Saturday night. It's really important to note what CNN did not report. CNN did not report that this mission was a failure. Far from it. It may have turned out to be a tremendous success. We just don't know all the facts yet, and neither does the U.S. government. There's so much.
That's good.
I thought he was fired from CNN.
He was.
Honestly,
he was fired.
Yeah, right. Okay.
He was fired for some being a bit of a deviant, and then.
And now he's back.
He's back. Oh, he's been back for a while. Yeah, deviants are good on that network, and. And he's backpedaling. He should just like Caitlin Collins should watch her old clip. He should watch some of the recent stuff from CNN as well. Anyway. Yeah. And then this is a former McDonald's employee saves the free world from an Iranian nuclear threat. And then the hats. Hats are for sale. And this
that was another, just to go back to that, the waving out the window of the drive-through, that was another masterpiece of campaigning, political campaigning, wasn't it?
That was like a stroke of genius, because it was Kamala Harris had put it out there that she said she worked for McDonald's, and it turns out it wasn't true. And then actually he went in and he worked the shift there, or whatever, a shift. He
like 10 minutes or something, but the pictures were good. It looks like a Norman Rockwell painting, doesn't it? That way, like that one. It was a masterstroke. Whoever decided on that earned their money.
He was supposed to work for an hour, but I think after 10 minutes, he was in the back there scarfing down cheeseburgers, and they had to reprimand him and said, you don't get to eat while you're on shift. There you go. Yeah, I guess in the flights, like they say on Air Force One, that they dole out basically McDonald's burgers and Coca-Colas. That's what you can get on that flight.
That's why another almost, I don't know if it's Rockwell, but certainly Art was RFK sat there with the cheeseburger in his hand,
But did you see that? He had that lawn party there too. One of the few times I've ever had a big lawn party with all the people that he invited, and you know what they served for that big White House lawn party?
Was it filet-o-fish?
It was McDonald's. Yeah, McDonald's was the sponsor.
That's funny.
McDonald's was the sponsor of the event. And I guess most of the Democrats now don't eat McDonald's or drive Teslas. There's a whole bunch of things they can't do. They can't go on Facebook. Can't do a bunch of
I feel
things.
like McDonald's transcends the political divide, surely.
Well, I don't know. They're sponsoring Trump.
Not if Trump keeps eating it.
Anyway, that's our show for today, and that's our show for the week. And we hope you enjoyed it. And we're back here. We're back here Monday, but then we're gone again for the big Canada Day celebration is on July 1st on Tuesday. But it won't be happening in Montreal because they said it's, what was the reason they didn't do it? Oh yeah, he loves KFC too. Iain says he loves KFC. And Donald Trump is a fan of the Kentucky Fried Chicken.
I can't remember why Montreal cancelled it, but whatever it is,
they said it was unsafe.
It didn't stop them having Baptiste there, did it?
They said it was unsafe.
Yeah, something like that. Anyway, fool of the day. Come on, you're trying to.
I'm trying to get out of it.
The fool.
Well, I'm going to have to say that for me it's a tie between David Eby and Chrystia Freeland on this BC Ferry thing. Like, I don't know, later in that video, Dan said that it was either incompetence or malice, and then he kind of said later that I don't think it's malice, and I don't think it is either, but it's definitely incompetence there. And
yeah.
And does Chrystia Freeland, who knew? Who knew what and when? Because, I mean, David Eby should have known, too. They borrowed the money. At some point, Brenda Bailey should have went to him and said, hey, we got to borrow money for this. I think they know. Because he said that the Fed should mind their own business because they're not giving him any money. Turns out they were giving him money. They gave him a lot of the money. They gave him the loan at what was that interest rate? 1.8 or something like that?
Yep.
A deal
they added it up, right? and the savings was something like $650 million over the term of the loan. It's enormous. It's more than more than half of the loan itself has been saved in interest payments.
So fool of the day, either Eby and Freeland share it, and then whoever says they didn't know, I don't know, is the bigger fool. And then the other person is not being honest. And then I would even say that the CEO of BC Ferries deserves some honorarium there for that as well, because now he's saying that he doesn't like the letter. You literally
he's
knew
getting
everything.
very defensive, isn't he? Very chippy.
He knew everything. He knew that he needed the money as well, and he knew where the money was coming from.
And he's also another bad thing to say about him is he's refusing to disclose how much money they're actually going to give to the Chinese shipbuilder. He's actually not telling us what the cost is, so we still don't know. People are trying to kind of reverse engineer based on that loan. They're trying to figure out what the cost actually is, but he still hasn't said.
They need to walk it back. They need to absolutely, because again, when we hear Melanie Joly talk about how we're going to do infrastructure projects across Canada with a Canadian steel, Canadian aluminum, and jobs, and all this building infrastructure, well, in the first chance they get to do something, they sent the money to China.
It's indefensible, and obviously even the Globe and Mail are upset about it. I mean, at that point, the horse is bolted then, hasn't it?
To use inferior steel, which we're seeing in the Patello Bridge, that's causing cost overruns because the Chinese use inferior steel. And I don't know if they're in aluminum's any more inferior, but they also have a record of human rights violations for their labor force. And they, C-SPAN, and says, how do we compete with Chinese labor when they get to break all the rules? And then the carbon tax that Dan Albus brought up too. There's no industrial carbon tax in China. So but
they're also tariffing our products. They're trying to destroy Saskatchewan's the heartbeat of Saskatchewan's economy. They're trying to really wreck probably one of our most valuable provinces and one of their biggest industries, and also trying to divide Canada by making the West unhappy with the East. Not to mention all the rest of the things we hear about China, its espionage and its attempts to subvert and undermine Canada. Some of that money that we give to this shipbuilding company will theoretically could end up being used to harm Canada. So it's almost like giving somebody money to hurt you.
And this is one of the things that shows me that the Liberals don't have a real game plan, or maybe because now there's talk out there by some Liberal MPs talking about taking away the 100% tariffs on Chinese EVs in exchange for the removal of the tariffs on the canola. But I thought they were trying to protect the automobile industry. That was their number one goal, from Champagne and Melanie Jolie. Because if they let in the Chinese EVs, that's the end of the auto industry here in Canada.
And that will upset the Americans as well, with whom we
That's what I mean.
organized that.
They just squeeze the toothpaste, and they don't know where it's going. They just squeeze it, and then there's a problem over there. Now what? Right? Instead of like encouraging investment, we have the same problem here in British Columbia. Investment has been scared out of this province, and then again, you talk about this lady that's talking about, well, we can get tax from taxpayers by taxing transactions instead of like going after that bike shop in the Bahamas. Maybe somebody should send her a letter on the bike shop in the Bahamas. Anyway,
That'd be wise. But I didn't just get my fool of the day out quickly.
There you go.
We didn't mention him in the show, but my fool of the day is based on this video that I can see from CPAC, which plays all the political press conferences. The title of this video from the last couple of hours is Charlie Angus responds to Kristi Noem's comments on Canadian border security. So another way to look at that is unemployed man unhappy with the US government, and is on CPAC, the premier political press conference network. So it has to be Charlie Angus for me. Unemployed man unhappy with the United States. It's just so funny.
I would add crazy person onto that as well. I don't know how he still gets press.
Unemployed crazy man.
And I don't know how he still gets press and how CPAC is still running his stuff. That part blows me away.
But he's also like, he's doing it with all the flags behind him. I think it might be in the Parliament building. You know, he's got all the like, I see the BC flag, New Brunswick flag. He's got all the provincial flags. It's like, it looks like he's got a suit on and everything.
So
it's like an official press conference.
Crazy imposter, unemployed man.
I find it a little bit surreal. He's gonna at some point, and I clicked on CPAC to see how they described him in their description. I thought, okay, maybe they'll justify it. And all it says is former NDP MP Charlie Angus. So unemployed man.
Yeah, but to be fair, he wasn't on the show today, so you know.
Yeah, but I don't know. He's another one of those. He could be a Hall of Famer one day if he keeps us up. I think. So.
I think he gets automatic. He gets to sit right next to the right of Justin Trudeau there at the big table. That $258,000 table of the Knights of Fools. Anyway.
Yeah, where's that table going to go now? I wonder.
That's our show for this week, and we're back on Monday, like I said. And enjoy your weekend, and happy Canada Day. Celebrate Canada Day like you should, and wear your Canada Day garb. I'm sure you're taking the kids out in the nation's capital there. And,
yeah, I often go down to the Museum of Civilization, they call it, on the French side, because you can, on the Quebec side, I should say, because you can see Parliament. It's like just over the Ottawa River, and you can see Parliament and everything. So that's probably what I'll end up doing.
Alrighty, that's a wrap, and we do thank you for watching Now Media.